It's Friday night, and Rusty, we have got a Game 3 on our hands. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Dom. Once again, we've got Rusty here with us, and like I said, we're going to the ace match. We're going to the final game between Vici Gaming and Edward Gaming. And in another world, I would be asking you, what on earth can Vici do to try to close this series out and come up with their first series win? That's the ideal world. That's the optimistic world. We got to be real here. Vici Gaming, they did not look good in game number 2. So let's just pull it back and say, what can they do to improve, to have a strong performance in this game 3?
Yeah, so in the second game, and the thing that Vici always does in every League of Legends game that they've ever played in their life is they try to minimize losses. They try and control the bleeding and slow it down so that they can outscale their opponents. And that's usually fine, you know, when EZHoon has his Azir, when they have the ability to make those plays. Again, Shen, one of Long's champions in the top lane, to split push, to give extra strategies. They can minimize and they can try and find those moments. But in game number 1, what they did was they drafted well. They played aggressively, they controlled the tempo. And in game number 2, they did try to minimize losses. They tried to slow down because they had no control early. But then they couldn't get control back because they drafted and got outscaled by the draft anyway. The Kog'Maw was going to be the shining light of the team if they got to a 4-item stage in the game, but they were never going to get to that stage of the game without EDG being a full item ahead, maybe an item and a half, and then it was over. So for Vici, what they need to do to get back to that game 1 form and not do what they did in game 2 is to draft more aggressively, not just to win lanes, but to change the draft up, to have something more cohesive as a team, whether it's all of us are outscaling, or we have a strong winning lane that I'm going to focus, the rest of us outscales. But you can't just pick a Malzahar and have that as the only engage tool, is what it feels like. The Jax was the biggest miss to me.
And then to this effect, we're looking towards the coach Hoon to be able to pull them together. Perhaps Long was intended to bridge that communication and scaling gap during the actual game itself, but like every good game, it starts in the draft, in that pick and ban. And EDG, we already know how intelligent a team they are, how well practiced they have been for so long. They easily adapted to game 2. Can Vici do the same in game 3?
I feel like Vici have the capabilities to do so if they think about it. They go backstage and their coach has worked out that that is maybe the biggest thing that they need to change. I want to see a Zac from Crash.
Well, hey, maybe we could. Crashing into the enemy jungle. Our casters are ready, though, to get us into this game number 3. Pulse and Raz, the desk is yours.
Thank you, Dominic Roma and Just Rusty. We're getting ready for this final game now between EDG and Vici. Now, I do want to jump on that point that the ancestors were talking about in terms of drafting for Vici and how they need more than just Malzahar. They need like more aggression, more winning lanes.
Yeah, I think Just Rusty was very right about just kind of like having a clear kind of composition for the team. It's not that the last composition wasn't clear. In fact, the last composition could be executed on by kind of wrestling jungle control earlier on, but the moment he lost jungle control, the moment Crash went too early to his own demise in that kind of 1v1 skirmish versus Lee Sin, composition went way haywire. Suddenly he has no control in the jungle versus Lee Sin. Malzahar has no way to path towards different lanes and use his ulti properly. It just kind of went out of sorts. So going into this game, they're very likely going to be bringing in some more CC, more engaged. Not just the Malzahar, but probably a Sejuani. Zac is another one that Just Rusty mentioned.
It's really interesting the ripple effect that, you know, just one play can have in the early game from Vici. But take a look at the bans here. So it will be Zoe, Jarvan, and Caitlyn from Vici. EDG have banned Vladimir, Sejuani, Shen. And the reason I laugh is because the Kalista gets locked in and Raz just busts up laughing.
It's immediate. That like immediately we're talking about more engage, more engage, more engage. AD carry, Kalista. So it just kind of showcases that Vici Gaming want to get on top of EDG in any of these fights. Alistar could be that mention too, but if we're going back to game 1, we saw that Bard works just as well.
Yes, it does. And there's the Azir, actually, for Scout. We said it was a contested pick between himself and EZHoon. And they haven't banned it, so you might as well just pick it away from the man.
Wow, they're firing it off. It seems like discussions in the back were very cohesive.
Engage! Yeah, and Crash also gets a winning jungle matchup as well. So good for him, good for Vici.
Yeah, and this is where you start to wonder where the gears start turning. This is the point of the draft where you can't really kind of plan out, pre-plan, because you're not really necessarily expecting what EDG are banning in the first phase, especially in the second phase. Tark is a ban that's going to be kind of maybe getting Caveman thinking of what he can pick.
Yeah, also with the Rise and the Varus for Vici and EDG respectively, and it was the Tarek ban here from EDG.
I got to start to wonder what Long wants to pick for himself. Now, he had another champion in his pockets, but we haven't seen just yet. Rumble is that champion, and that Rumble is also a champion that Ray plays. So it's a bit of a contested pick, not in this series yet. It kind of showcases that if Shen's not going to be available to him, if Gnar got picked away from him by Ray, then he might just go towards another teamfight pick, which would work with this composition for Vici, which would be the Rumble.
Alistair ban out there from Vici, actually. So don't want that to be on the side of EDG, though they could definitely pick it themselves, considering they have Kalista, unless they want to just pick Bard again for Caveman.
Yeah, they don't want to give the extra engage away to EDG. EDG has first pickings, and it's definitely going to be a support pick. So if they get Tahm Kench, if they get Alistar, it's going to be incredible for the Varus as well for EDG. So Vici are quite comfortable going for a counter pick support.
Yep, I wonder what Vici actually pick up now. It could be potential Ornn, flexed top lane or bot lane. Rakan is even a potential pick for the bot lane. Shen has been banned out.
I'm thankful that Martin's the one looking through these picks. Caveman would just be trolling, but going through Ornn and the last pick here, the Cho'Gath, I'm fine with both of them. I think that creating that front liner is incredible for the team. Cho'Gath we've seen from Meow, not so much in these team fight scenarios, and Cho'Gath in team fights would do super well versus the Lee Sin. Lee Sin really can't do much in terms of diving that, in terms of like looking for those ult kicks that we've seen Haru go for, because if he gets silenced when he kicks in, then all of that gets thrown in the air and he immediately gets bursted down. So Cho'Gath is, or at least, is one of the greatest enemies for a Lee Sin player.
He is, but not going to be showing his face in this one for Vici at the very least, because it will be Ornn in the top lane, and Bard once again for Caveman. So I like to see it, because the Bard was very good. In fact, his first win, I believe, was over to Caveman earlier today. So
yeah, nice that we get to see that from him. This is what happens when you kind of build up a confidence in a support player, that he's willing to go for, honestly, any pick for himself. He's happy with the Bard. If it worked in Game 1, and of course he's confident picking it into Game 3. The different scenario, of course, we have to put this one out there, is that it's not a Kog'Maw for iBoy. It's the Varus pick. Sure, he doesn't have a dash for himself, but he does have a little bit of a way to get out of those scenarios. If he's ever kind of made golden by the Midas touch of Bard, then he has, he has the opportunity to throw it alt out there, throw his E, a few abilities for his team to kind of set up for the fight. So has more setup than the Kog'Maw in those scenarios.
And we don't get to see the Rumble in the end from either Ray or Long. In fact, it's sad, boys, because we've got Maokai in the top lane against Ornn right here, and both of them have Ignite. So these tanks, I mean, there's a potential maybe they die, but they're definitely not killing each other 1v1.
Oh, no, not at all. I would be surprised if they didn't actually just go towards Smite, decide to just go for a full minion off.
At this point.
They're going towards, like, Inspiration Tree, then you get the Smite, you get the minion dematerializer, and just go for that beautiful push war. Never. The observer should never take the camera out of the top lane, because that's just going to be a beautiful sight.
The only thing we should look at. Yep.
Just slap wars. I slap that minion. I slap the Ornn.
Yep.
It's great.
Because every time you look at a Maokai matchup, especially into a tank, it's just like, oh, that was a good trade, and Maokai hit a minion, got all of his health back.
Greatest thing about the top lane matchup is that Maokai just gets resigned to believing that no fight's happening in the top lane for the next 60 seconds and decides to use his ulti for wave clear. It happens.
It does happen, and then he gets dove, and it feels bad.
But what makes these picks all the better, though, when you get out of the laning phase, is it comes to the team fights. The team fights should be beautiful this game. Maokai and Ornn kind of makes it known for these teams. They're massive frontliners, going to allow Ryze and Azir to press up in these fights. A lot of CC for EDG, so it's going to be interesting to see what these kind of windows, these small windows that Vici Gaming will have, because it'll be on the Bard Ultimate, it'll be on Kalista Ultimate. If those net great CC for them, great plays for them, then the teamfight will world.
I hope so, Raz. Now, there's no money-back guarantee on that statement, but I will hold you to it. If there's no good team fights, then I will call you out.
VODs don't exist in this day and age.
Cut the damn tape. So get into Game 3 between Vici and Edward Gaming. We're at match point for both teams in this best of 3. And it's a surprise that we even got here in the first place.
Yeah.
Vici just needs to win one more game, and they'll take the set.
We saw how fast the earlier set was. Of course, BLG taking it over FPX.
That was barely an hour of gameplay.
I know, right? They wanted to rush over to their New Year's party.
Yeah.
Seems like EDG is not invited because they're taking that extra game. They're not gonna, they're not gonna make the same bus.
No, they are not. All the punch is gonna be gone. All the food, the buffet is gonna be gone. That feels pretty bad.
It's kind of surprising that Maokai starting the lane. Of course, he has spellbook for himself. Starting the lane with teleport. Because you can just base, get teleport, and then go back to lane.
Yeah, there's actually just no unless you want to make a play pre-first back.
Yeah. You should just start the lane with Ignite, with Smite. Smite is legitimate.
Send a message, take cleanse. Like you could do anything apart from teleport, basically.
But it looks like he just giving himself the option. You might see an earlier fight happening.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason you would take it is to go for an early play into bot lane or mid lane.
Yeah. And it makes it so the bot lane is all the more important for EDG. The fact that they have push priority with Braum and Varus. Varus has higher range, of course, can throw out those arrows and hail of arrows and his Q. So it should be better for him once they get out of the ridiculous level 2 power spike of Martin Caveman.
Yep, pretty horrendous. Looking towards the mid lane as well, Scout and Easy Hoon. Scout basically has Easy Hoon's champion. But last time we saw this matchup earlier in this series, in fact, that was very close from my boy. But yeah, we saw this with that matchup reversed. And Crash, we'll see this time if he can try and exploit that, because he does have the Kha'Zix here into Lee Sin.
Yeah, and you were right about the Azir off. Seems like both of them had that priority. It worked well, even though it's such an amazing champion in this current day and age. It works for both players in these teams.
Yeah.
So you get to see Scout kind of showcase why he was so strong with that earlier on this split. Getting chased down.
Yeah, Scout's going to take a bunch of damage here from Easy Hoon, though he is instantly backing away, giving an out for EDG actually towards the mid lane. But there's a difference between Azir being in meta and you being an Azir player. You know what I mean? Like, Easy Hoon is an Azir player. Scout's an Azir player. Like, other people will play Azir, but it's not quite the same.
I just love, you're right about that. Love the meta. It should be great for Easy Hoon just because, of course, the control mages are so strong this time around. Of course, not netting him wins, but it's making him a lot more comfortable at how he takes these lanes.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of BLG a little bit because, of course, with Camille being so strong right now as a champion, netting a lot of wins around, of course, Amazing J, getting a lot of proper flank TPs. I mean, it's really been his champion throughout the last few splits.
Yep, sad that Nautilus isn't in meta. Otherwise, Amazing J would take that one to the bank. 957 as well.
Such a weird champion in the sense.
Seen him like forever.
It's just like, yeah, we haven't seen him in a long time because he was one of those champions that he wasn't the best team fighter. He was a good team fighter. But a lot of what made him different to like a Maokai was just his laning phase. We'd always have the push in against these champions.
Riptide was disgusting though. Like
Yeah.
the fact it could hit you up to 3 times.
Yeah,
It's do so much damage.
Quite a bit of damage for the champion that's going to be building into a mega tank later on.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of not seeing so much play because now you can pick Ornn. Kind of does the same thing. Has proper push, has ridiculous base damage in the lane, and builds into a super tank. Look at that wave. Maokai ain't touching him.
That was a fat wave. Ray should be able to get most of this though. Looks like he has gone for his first back of the game. And yeah, has used his teleport, but I see no reason as to why he won't be able to pick up all of these minions.
Still a lot of... If this keeps happening, if he keeps getting massive waves pushed on him, now Caveman, get out of there.
Going to need to take a magical journey. Haru's going to connect the Q here. Caveman, there we go.
Good looking out for Haru. Haru recognizing that Martin, usual support mentality, try and upset their base, stop them from coming back onto the map fast. He's like, I'm just going to wait for him to extend, and I'm going to gank him. So he loses HP.
Yep, just going to pound him down. But the back already comes in from iBoy and Mako. It's going to be just the first item picked up here. With recurve bow. Mid lane tier stacking up. Scout yet to get his first back of the game as well. And pretty much just clear skies, you know?
Yeah,
Sunny,
everything
clear
looked good.
skies.
It's looking good for Vici specifically. The fact that Easy Hoon was able to get that first base, get himself the tier, means that he's going to be comfortable in this lane for a little bit. Even has the refillable potions, so it just gives him kind of space to constantly push in the lane. Know that Azir has to base at some point, so as long as he keeps Scout in the lane, he has a light item advantage. And the moment Scout leaves the lane, then he'll, of course, have pressured the lane for so long that it would have allowed him and Crash to look for a lane. If he doesn't find a lane topside for a gank, then he can just go for a deeper vision. So far this early game is looking pretty good for Vici.
Yeah, first little invade there as well for Crash. He's just going to get wards down into the jungle. We'll be spotting out Haru as he goes towards the top side. Looked like Long just went into the river, trying to see if he could find a honey fruit, but there was none available for him. Botlane's just going to be trading away here. And Kalista has that advantage, but it's pretty much evened up right now. That has a nice bit of damage there onto iBoy.
Yeah, I like the fact that Martin's been threatening the back lane. Look at the waves right now, or at least the Kalista Ren on the back waves, just so if iBoy ever walks up too closely, you can throw a Q straight through the minion, straight onto Varus, and go for a full Ren stack. So that's like really cool to see that interaction, pushing iBoy away from the wave and kind of forcing him to use his mana to either pick up the wave or look for trades.
Yeah, it's a mechanic that's honestly not talked about too much because there's very few circumstances in which it's actually used, but once it hits, it really hurts.
Yeah. It's nice here just because, of course, you would look towards iBoy. I kind of mentioned that Varus would have wave clear in this matchup, but he's not going to be able to get the added attack speed from killing a minion or look for, of course, threaten up with Hail of Arrows onto Martin if Martin is constantly pushing away from the wave.
Getting away with daylight robbery here.
My God.
Yeah, Crash is going to rise. Where's my red buff?
Are you serious?
It's already gone. Takes away the ward as well that happens to be in the pit. But now EDG already know where Crash is, level 5.
Yeah, so knowledge is just there from both teams. The fact that now Crash knows that Lee Sin's bot side, that the red buff is probably still up and available, but there's no way Kha'Zix is going to be getting there in time. So he can inevitably get there, but it's going to be him kind of fighting Haro for the buff rather than Haro getting, of course, the red buff for free. So right now, Haro just finding that small window to steal the buff means that he kind of has the edge on the next play, which might be Kha'Zix looking for the red buff.
Yeah, he's definitely pathing towards the top side right now. And Haro is actually going towards his Gromp, then going back to base, but there's wards in the jungle only from Vici, so I don't think EDG will know this is happening. I mean, they can guess. They won't see it.
Yeah, just because the Gromp was taken away by Haro means that he doesn't get into the map on time. Look at Orin, too, positioned away to just kind of body block and help Kha'Zix take the red buff at the time.
Yeah, good stuff from Long, but now Ray is very much aware of what's happening.
Ooh, what?
Actually going to use his perfect timing right here, right now. And the cat somehow finds Crash anyway, so he can't come in and assist.
200 IQ cat. That cat right there should go to university.
That was like the end of the animation. that feels real bad if you Crash.
Yeah, that makes me sad.
Well, the play fizzles, but he did manage to pick up the red buff, and more importantly, the level 6 as well on the Kha'Zix. Likewise, Haro did the same now on Crook Camp. So both junglers now level 6. See if they can get themselves onto the map into one of these ganks. Not top lane, but maybe mid lane.
Yeah. All of that was just kind of given so Crash could finally take the red buff. So even though they made the extra effort to finally give him the red buff and answer, at least they're keeping up. Can't really say the same for Martin here, though. Like right now, Caveman and Martin had a lot of early pressure, but just because Martin doesn't have enough mana for Rend, they're trying to get opened up on.
Not going to happen though. Chain of Corruption does miss, unfortunately, onto Caveman. Though he's now finding it pretty difficult to find his way back into lane with the minions.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult from the bottom lane of Caveman and Martin from this point forward. Sure, they have TP, so they just need a small window so they can base and TP back into the lane. But that small window is not being presented. Even look at where Lee Sin is. They're really fighting hard to get positioned here, just so they can either look for a dive on Martin and Caveman, or just force them to stay in lane even longer.
Yeah, Martin's just continuing to farm up. And we've got Haro in the river currently. I'm looking towards his Mountain Dragon, since it is the first one of the game. A lot of full back pings though, so seems like a call was made and decided not to go for it in the end. So now waiting in the bottom side, Haro seeing if he can find this gank in the bot, but Kalista's gone back to base.
Yeah, she should be able to... Oh, she doesn't... Yeah, I forgot about the fact that she doesn't have Inspiration. In fact, this should just be free chip tower. So, Caveman, do your best. There's not much you can do.
No, but he can try and farm. It's not going well. It's a poor Caveman all by himself. And Haro goes back to base, so...
Those are the small plays that you kind of say, well...
Oh, hello.
Okay, get out of there. Small plays that you kind of say, wave off and say, well, you know what? All the iBoy got is good back timing for himself and a little bit of chip on tower. But we saw what happened last game when EDG were able to get that much chip on tower. They're a really good team when it comes to just slowly focusing you down, chipping you down at all times, just enabling the play from happening. So Haro was down there, got a lot of good vision, got a lot of good pressure, and allowed iBoy to just kind of take that tower down just a little bit. So now the next play is going to be all the more impactful because that just might be going for the tower's entire life.
Yeah, maybe. Do get a nice little invade there from EasyHoon and Crash on top side, taking away the Raptor camp. Just in general, I mean, they have been trying to leverage the pressure that Kha'Zix has into Lee Sin. Lots of deep wards coming out.
It's good presence coming in from Crash. Though Haru's been having a good game thus far. I think that the pick onto Kha'Zix was pretty good. Knowing that, of course, they have enough CC in the bottom lane and in the top lane. They don't necessarily need a CC coming out of their jungler. So Crash now back on an aggressive pick on Kha'Zix means that later on in the game, he's going to be a big threat. Early on in the game, he's going to be a good threat just to Haru.
Yeah, just for now. And this is like the perfect game for Vici. We're 11 minutes in, no kills. The gold is almost bang on even. Very much a slow early game. That's exactly what Vici want. If they can get to like 30 minutes, 0-0, that's like the Vici game.
Yeah, it's funny because Vici hasn't been an incredibly successful team in the LPL when they were in the LPL way back. But they've always been a team that could really contest games against EDG. Because at the time, EDG was like their team fighting team. They could get to that 30, 40 minute mark. They weren't necessarily known for just snowballing into you with a carry top laner. And that's kind of changed just a little bit. The game's still going kind of that slow pace that Vici want.
It's changed a little bit, but Ray is still on Maokai right now, so to be honest, his name could just be Mouse. Like, this is still the very similar EDG that we're seeing here. Nice sidestep there from iBoy. Caveman's still walking up, though. Luckily, Fates coexist.
Yeah, that was interesting. The fact that the Guardian came through, of course, the extra shield on Mako and iBoy, and the Braum proc came on top of Caveman. Caveman was like, wait a minute, I'm making a bad decision.
This is an error. This is a very much grave error.
Pull me out!
And luckily, Martin was there to pull him out.
Put me on the bench, coach.
Yep. Just get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
Someone else in. Scout's going to get his blue buff. What's Crash doing? Well, he's going to spot this control ward. That's what he's going to do. And so far, no one's gone for Dragon. Poor Dragon's been all by himself. Oh, Crash finding his way into the mid lane. Scout in place. Manages to cleanse out of that. Doesn't burn the flash, though.
Yeah, wasn't confident enough to look for a flash, snare, and then Q, which I think would have been it. Other teams would have done it, would have gone for the play. Scout has flash available to him, so it would have just turned into Scout flashing away, but if you both lose cleanse and flash, would be devastating for Scout.
Yeah, I definitely know a lot of mid laners who would just mash both buttons. just get me out of here. Press everything, but no, Scout played it very calmly, shifting sands and the cleanse there as well, so managed to get out alive. But back into this bottom side, iBoy is actually pulling ahead slightly in terms of the CS score.
Yeah, so far, even though we're seeing how the trades are going. In fact, I think that Vici should try and double down on this. You see where Crash is currently located and how all of the sustain is kind of being burnt from iBoy right now. He's taking a lot of damage. Has one potion left on his refillable. I think it's still okay to look for a dive here, knowing that Callista will have her ulti available to her quite soon.
Yeah, Scout just popping Scry's Bloom there as well. See if he can spot out EasyHoon, who's walking back into this mid lane.
I do think pings are being made here for this play.
Oh, hello. iBoy pops the ultimate. Martin goes into his hourglass. A stopwatch, rather. Crash looking for this play on bottom.
Wasn't seen.
I was never here.
Oh,
here I am.
Get
Damage
back.
onto Mako.
What are you trying to base?
We didn't see
Oh,
anything.
no!
Oh, it's too late. Mistimed. Now teleport comes back in for iBoy.
Sad.
Very, very sad.
That was a good play, though. That was a good look. Now, Vici really wanted to go for it. I think Crash was seen going through the initial banana bush because there was a rogue ward catching him out. But ultimately, that was just really smart from EDG to look to base immediately as soon as possible. You have the TP, of course, because you have the spell book available to you. You're just trying to protect yourself.
I love the play, though, the idea from Crash. Goes full Madagascar penguin. So you didn't see anything. I'm back into the bush. Goodbye.
And then the moment Braum face checked.
Yeah. I found you. Got you in my sights.
Excellent.
And that's it. Mountain Dragon down. Goes over to EDG. Next Dragon's also going to be a Mountain Dragon. So it looks like even the game just wants us to go PvE at this point.
A few ways to scale in this game. How to scale a mountain.
Yep.
But yeah, EDG at this point in time, getting themselves quite comfortable. If they can get the second Earth Dragon for themselves, they're putting themselves in a position where Baron does become a major point of focus. You have the Maokai to kind of tank the Baron up with Braum, and you have Varus and Azir. both incredibly good at just burning it down. So that's now a threat that Vici have to kind of focus on.
Yeah, we're definitely just setting up a camp, toasting some marshmallows.
It's hard to kind of look for. EasyHoon doesn't have much mana to his name. 40% mana. Okay, he does have blue buff. So this is a potential play that they can go for.
4 people collapsing on bottom side from Vici. iBoy and Mako are stepping up. Who do they have? They have Haru behind them. Scout's unable to get to the play. He has Cleanse and not Teleport. Raid does, though.
Yeah,
He
I
might
think
be able to come down.
ultimately Vici went out, or at least EDG went out here because Vici didn't know exactly where Scout was. Scout was back in base, so he was going to have to go for a long trek, long walk. Had this been known, Vici would have all-in on the play. They just didn't know how fast he was going to be able to get towards that bottom side.
Yep, not happening. EasyHoon's going to take all the small chickens there from Haru, so it's going to be a sad Lee Sin when he goes up there, but he will pick up the crab. He's had the advantage since his lane's pushing out. iBoy getting caught up. Caveman should be able to land this Q here. Good block from Mako. May secure the life of iBoy. Long comes into the bottom lane. Nice double knock up. Haru needs to try and get out alive. Not going to happen. Auto attack comes down for first blood of the game over to Long. And he flashes out once more. iBoy stepping forwards, but he needs to start backing away. In comes the Ornhorn. It's going to do a lot of damage to Raid. Runs him over. Caveman comes in with the damage.
Such a smart play from Vici. It felt like whenever we look towards Vici, we always ask ourselves, how are they going to misplay this team fight? That's always been the question of mine, but there was no misplay there. Long immediately TPing the moment the Bard ult comes through onto iBoy. Sure, iBoy didn't fall, but that was just a fight that EDG had to double down on. Ray comes through in that fight, and they just play it front to back. Let's take a second look at this, because this is great. Another great ulti from Caveman. Sure, Mako denies this and blocks it out, but the moment the TP comes through, Ray has to respond. 2-man knockup from Ray, and from this point forward, not only does Haru go down, but look where Maokai's positioned. This is not a good play for him, not a good fight for him. So they just had to back away, but when you're playing the good old game of baseball, sometimes you just get hit.
Sometimes you just get hit.
You thought they was going somewhere else. No.
Yeah, I don't even know that's how baseball works, mate. But Caveman's going to get a nice double stun up against the wall, make it out alive, and he's good to go. Yeah, more akin to hockey, I reckon.
Maybe.
Yep.
I mean, there's the difference of throwing a ball at somebody or else just getting checked into
I mean,
the boards.
sure, if the ball just comes at you, hits you in the face, then that's definitely what happened. But
That's not what you do when you play baseball.
oh
my
Scout
God.
knocking Crash into the tower. He does have a stopwatch. Scout, has he got the damage? Follows through with the Conquering Sands. Great play. EasyHoon. Does ultimate get cancelled? No,
Yeah.
Haru's still got another one. EasyHoon backing away to the top side. He does not have a way out. He has to flash over the wall. Chain of Corruption lands. iBoy wants this one. Lands the ultimate, and EasyHoon trapped underneath this tower. He's gone.
This is ridiculous. Vici tried to make that play happen, but the dive couldn't work. Not at all. Because, I mean, he probably wasn't even trying to dive. Crash just got blown into the tower, and EasyHoon came to follow.
iBoy, he's teleporting elsewhere, going towards that bottom lane, but mid tower about to crack here. Vici lose that tower. EDG, first one of the game, and it's mid tower.
This is such good play coming in from EDG, and an amazing play from Scout. Just essentially turned that on a dime. Now just waiting for EasyHoon to come back onto the map. It allows EDG to just kind of push mid and look for another play.
Now, good stuff coming in there from EDG, but it was really opened up by Crash. Like, Crash decided he wanted to just go in. And great outplay by Scout, but it very much was a play that went wrong by Vici.
Yeah, no one expects to get swept under the carpet. He tries to go in. It's like, maybe I can get all that damage down. Boom! Behind the back, Scout just pulls him into the tower and finishes up the job. And then EasyHoon, this is where the question really, I guess I'm not going to look at it, but the question for me was ultimately, he tried to go for the stopwatch ulti play out of there.
Yeah.
It got canceled. So that was really unfortunate because EasyHoon would have gotten out of there scot-free. It just wasn't meant to be.
Would have gotten away with it too. Didn't happen, but
Wasn't for those meddling buttons.
Yep, unfortunate. EDG though, they're back into the mid lane, back into the bot lanes, farming away. Starting to open up some pretty significant CS leads though, especially in the mid and bot. iBoy wants to try and crack this tower now. He's got Haru coming down to maybe help that effort. Crash is actually on his crux, so we will be able to react to this if Lee Sin comes down.
Yeah, this is free pressure from EDG. Look at where Rise is. Was trying to solo out his blue buff. Means that Azir gets a full push of mid lane and that he can join the play. Your Vici's games bottom lane, you're like, wait a minute, that's a full team in the bottom lane. I didn't order for a party. Uh-oh.
Oh, Q lands from Haro. He spots that crash, but they know it's only 3. Good ultimate in from Caveman's going to buy a bit of time, plus the teleport out from Long. He arrives to the play. In fact, it's EasyHoon who joins the fight, but the Q coming in from Haro eliminates Martin before this even starts. Follow through from Ray as well. Twisted Advance comes in onto Caveman, secures his demise underneath the tower. 2 kills to EDG plus the tower.
A clean dive from EDG. It started off with Caveman getting a proper ulti on iBoy, but the difference between this ulti and the last few is the follow-up. There was no follow-up here from Vici at all. That was a defensive ulti, and EDG were just going to be put back into that position for a dive.
EDG will actually continue pushing down here. It's only EasyHoon to defend, but it looks like iBoy will back away because the call has been made onto the Dragon. Second Mountain Dragon here for EDG. It seems like slowly but surely it's starting to ramp up for EDG now.
Yeah, this is a big hit. We were talking about the Mountain Dragon earlier on. That's a second Mountain Dragon for EDG.
And a third one coming up.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know if they even need the third one. The fact that they already have Varus and Azir 22 minutes into the game, they can really start to focus towards Baron now. A ping has already just been levied. That was Vici's ping because they are deathly afraid of the Baron.
And they have to be. I mean, what else is on the board really for EDG on the bottom side? Nothing. Literally nothing. So the only thing that EDG could possibly move towards now is top tower or the Baron here.
Yeah, just a little bit. You saw EasyHoon initially walking towards bottom lane, changed his mind, go towards top. He doesn't have his TP available to him, and he really does need TP. Both Luong and EasyHoon will not be able to answer to this bottom lane pressure. They need to be here for Baron. It's starting.
They're actually begun it. Yeah, Martin's going to have to make the long trek down from bottom lane. He's so far away. He's literally taking the walk of shame here. Flash away from EasyHoon. iBoy's going to continue hitting away at the Baron and buying some time. The Ornhorn comes in, but Crash is just super dead right now, and Long misreads the play. He jumps in. The rest of the team trying to take the journey, but everybody's following through. Maybe I've made a mistake, says Caveman, as the rest of his team gets mopped up because of the magical journey.
It felt like Azir had about 10 soldiers because the entirety of EDG were all right in front of him. So
what a disaster.
So EDG really stomping this one through. Now on to the next tower.
Unfortunate. 6v4 in that engagement, and now the mid tower is going to be falling. This is going to be a lot. Probably going to be an inhibitor here from EDG.
Yeah, that was a bit tragic. Vici understood that Baron was going to be a play, but they were still surprised at how quickly EDG started it.
Down goes the in here. 24 minutes on the clock, and EDG have so much now. Massive gold swing onto their side. 45,000 gold, 39,000 gold. Vici trying to get something back on the top side, but EasyHoon will have to cheese it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people coming his way.
Here's the thing. Vici have at least one strength that's in towards the top lane. No tower being taken. But looking back at this play, look at where Martin is, taking the long trek through mid lane. So immediately, this is the key point of the fight. They need to be able to get on top of this Baron and starting the fight. But he joins far too late. Ryze has already been completely cordoned off towards the top side of the map, so he's not going to be able to help. And this is where Scout is probably the most safest man alive. Has about 1 billion bodyguards in front of him.
Yeah, the double Emperor's Divide comes up. And now EDG are just very, very far ahead, pretty much. Vici will have to try and find a way back into this game, but I'm struggling to find ways and where they can do that.
I mean, it's difficult. I don't know what else to say. This is difficult. At this point of the game, you have double Earth Dragon, which can chip down towers incredibly well. Ray's on top form right now. This is all they really can hope for, is that kind of Hail Mary Tryndamere play where you send one person out to get a tower in the opposite side of the map, and you try to upset the tempo in a sense. You force EDG to commit to one tower and one tower alone, because if they look towards bottom lane tower, the wave's nowhere near their favor. You look towards mid lane, it's essentially the same, because Vici put in a lot of work pushing out 2 towers. That means that Vici can sit here underneath this turret, 5-man strong, and hope that they win this team fight.
This is going to be a big Baron power play, especially if Ray tries to open it up as well. Follows through by the bit of time using the Tempered Fate there onto Martin, but not going to happen in the end. In comes the Ram, blocked up by Mako. Well played to him. iBoy hammering away at Long. 3 deaths on the side of Vici. This might actually just be it right here, to be honest. A lot of low health members on EDG, but they only have EasyHoon and Caveman defending.
Yeah, it was a good attempt nonetheless. Scout and iBoy both with near 0 HP to be able to just get dived on. but they're still alive, and the rest of Vici are
Oh,
not.
iBoy pops out of the teleport, jumps right onto EasyHoon, the last remaining man who could really do anything about this onslaught from EDG. iBoy is pushing back Caveman, but he's got the Nexus in his sights. That's all he really cares about. The win right here is EDG onto the Nexus, 26 minutes in, take the 2-1 against Vici.
And they might be able to take the last train to the party, because that was a fast game.
Oh, they caught up time for sure. Ask Amazing J to save someone punch for him.
It was a nice welcome back for Luong. He looked good for his team, taking it to Game 3 versus EDG. There's still some hope left for Vici, but ultimately, EDG comes through, and they make it worthwhile in Game 3.
Yes, they do. And eventually, EDG pull out in the series. That's a good thing about best of 3 is generally the team, if they make a mistake in best of 1, then unfortunate. You just go home with the L. But in this one, able to pull it back in 3-game set.
Yeah, it kind of showcases the adaptability that was made through from EDG in the pick ban scenario. It was nice to see them, especially kind of focusing towards the jungle matchup. And even though the Vici tried to kind of adapt as well, picked up Kha'Zix for themselves to kind of focus on that mid lane 2v2. But like EDG said, okay, we're comfortable with Haro's Lee Sin. He can just fly across the map with this kick. And we'll also give Scout his Azir pick. He comes out ahead with it.
Yeah, I like the idea there from Vici, honestly. Like, I looked towards the draft and I was like, oh, pretty good. We wanted to engage from them. They start off with a first pick Kalista, and it was like, fantastic. They follow through the Bard with everything else, even the Rise coming through. But fortunately, it just fell too far behind from these players. They made the first initial play into bot lane, and then it was just pretty much lights out from there. It was just Dragon play, then team fight, Baron, end of the game.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how close this series really was. The fact that Vici were really contesting in these fights. That a lot of the time, if Caveman got an ulti off, the rest of Vici was following through. That was the communication we were kind of criticizing when it came to Vici's team fighting. Now they've gotten much better at that. Didn't net them a series win, but it netted them the first map win of the LPL.
That's true. It did indeed do that. They managed to get themselves one win here. And as you said, they did look better. They have improved for certain. It's definitely not just like found themselves in a rut and they just can't get out. Like, they are trying to climb out at this point. And I would say that their performance, even though it's an arms race, is difficult. Because I look towards them, and as we get towards cross-conference, I look at the other side and I'm like, everyone else is improving, I would say, at an even faster rate than Vici.
Yes.
So even though they are going up, and I would say, like, maybe alongside them we look towards FPX, and while they're not getting better, they still started on, like, a relatively good foundation. You look at the other side, and I'm just looking at those flags, like, I'm actually not sure who Vici can beat over there, apart from maybe TOP.
That's the beauty of competition a lot of times. Even though you're all growing, you feel good about how you're coming out of scrims, how you're coming out of these games. They should feel good about this one. But the worry is still there. That you look across on the side of Suning, Jingdong, as cross-conference really does loom over them.
Yep.
That, you know what? Hopefully it's fast enough.
Yeah, who
Hopefully.
can you actually beat on that side? It's going to be very, very tough for Vici coming in to the cross-conference, because this is like 4 weeks of play, and it's just like, if you win like a single game over there, it's literally just a competition of like them and TOP and like who can scramble for any wins whatsoever.
And with the, of course, New Year's break, of course, coming up for all of these teams, I really do wonder how Vici are going to play that out. Are they going to take the much-needed vacation, or are they going to kind of scrim throughout because they do need to make up time for it?
That's very true, and we have to wonder what the top teams will look at afterwards, after Chinese New Year, because, you know, the likes of RNG, they start to get very, very good after that. But we're going to take a look at that series, and to do that, we'll send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, guys. Again, Richard Pulscam, Barento, Raz Mohammed. Hi, my name's Dom. This Rusty. Formalities aside, we've got a lot to talk about. Vici Gaming, they put on a show in game number 1. They actually joined in the race and started running. Though they did eventually get outpaced, we did get to see EDG return to form. They actually had us asking some questions today.
Yeah, Vici looked very good in game number 1. Yes, they got clapped in game number 2. But the thing that we're going to look at as well is game 3 and how things shifted for them in this particular game. And what's cool to me about Vici in this set is in game 2 they lost. And they were like, okay, something's clearly wrong. What are we going to do? What is the problem? And the third game draft phase actually solved a lot of the problems that we had with them. We suggested perhaps a bit more engage. Their first pick was Kalista. Hurrah, doesn't matter what your support is, then you actually have a form of engage. And a lot of the roster actually then followed that up with engage, having a Rise there, being able to use the W to lock someone down, Ornn in particular, and Bard specifically for Caveman, all big engage tools that Vici were able to select. So I was very happy with their draft phase compared to game 2 and reminiscent of what was successful for them in game number 1.
And not only that, we saw them use their engage multiple times. They were pressuring bottom lane almost all the time. The Ornn has pushed priority in the top lane for that Maokai for quite a long time, and then they were trying to open up these advantages for Crash to get across the map.
And almost reminiscent of game number 1's replay that we showed you as well was what happened in game 3. Just a couple of minutes later, the fight breaks out in the bottom lane. Caveman locks down an AD carry and tries to follow it up with stuns. Then Lung shows up, correctly timed, and finishes the rest of the engage off. They are able to lock down picks here, and Vici kicking it off, as we said, reminiscent of game 1. Well, they won that game. So, again, your hopes start to rise for Vici. This is looking very positive. They're able to make these plays. EasyHoon was even here at the same time as Scout if something else were to happen. So, for what it's worth, started very well. Unfortunately for Vici, all of 2 minutes later, the Azir just gets a kill under the turret, and then EDG bounced back. And that's the real story of game number 3 for me. While it looked so good for Vici for the first 19 minutes, EDG adapted. They knew. They proved that they are the better team, that they're all class, and beat them in the end.
Yeah, and of course, the person who really helped propel that momentum forward, as you said, in the mid lane, was Scout, getting that kill, sort of instigating these plays around the map. He's going to take our man of the match, 4-0-6, 91% kill participation. His deaths in game 1 might have cost them, but he's more than able to make up for it in game 3.
Scout is a very hit or miss player. We know that from his experiences at Worlds, but this was a big hit from Scout. We know that his Azir is outstanding from what we've seen earlier in the split. This game was a shining example of that, and it does cast your mind back. Everyone thinks of that one moment where someone jumps on him, he just without hesitation kills them under his own turret. It almost looked like Kha'Zix's jump was elongated by how perfectly it was timed by Scout on his Azir, and very much a deserving MVP from that game.
Yeah, and with that, EDG, now they're going to close out the series. Let me double check my standings here. That puts them at 4-1, tied with Snake. So they are guaranteed at least second place with the potential to go for first, depending on how Snake does later on. But I think the thing that's most important is that Vici Gaming right now, they are 0-5. They've got a chance that they can go 0-6 into cross-conference. And this is not the way you want to start your return to the LPL.
Yeah, and I mean, the casters mentioned it, and I'm happy to reiterate that fact. Vici are improving. They are looking a little bit better every set that we see from them. I think this set was the best that they've looked so far this split. So coming into their next set, which is a winnable set, let's say, because it's against Fun Plus Phoenix, I believe, and of all games that they could win, it's that one. They need to keep improving, need to keep showing that they have what it takes to be that superior team, and that may be what it takes to tip it over for them. Don't go without a win into cross-conference, and maybe the momentum does build, because like the casters also mentioned, cross-conference is a scary place.
It really is. I mean, the fact that we're seeing LGD stepping forward and picking up wins, I have to say, they're on their first win streak for the first time since spring 2015, when Godvi was still on the team, Acorn was still on the team. This is way, way back in the day.
Acorn Marin, right?
Yeah. And we're seeing the fact that Vici Gaming, they need to match the growth of the LPL. Because, again, this is the long-term league. This is the big leagues for them, not the LSPL. This is the chance for them to really prove themselves as a top name, and they cannot just sit at the bottom.
No, they certainly can't. And from what we've seen now, there is proof in the pudding from their performances. They do need to get better as they go. And for me, it's not even the EasyHoon effect. I think bringing Lung back was the first big thing that you have to highlight and say, that was a good call. Meow's not there. They show Long. They actually looked a little bit better. They did take a game off EDG. So credit to them for that. But then it's also the bottom lane, because Caveman won't get barred every single time. Vici need to keep showing that they have what it takes to improve down there and play a little bit better as a team. EDG on the flip side, coming in the cross-conference, just need to actually keep winning.
Exactly. We know they have the potential to. We're starting to see some growth from Haro, and of course, in a few minutes, we'll actually be getting a interview with Haro in English, sponsored by Candace. She'll be up here in just a few moments. But before we get the chance to get taken care of, we'll actually take a look at our games tomorrow. Of course, the LPL never sleeps, and as a result, neither do we. For those matchups, we've got Rogue Warriors versus Jingdong for our first matchup. And just afterwards, happening at just about the same time, it's Suning versus RNG and Snake versus OMG.
And now these are exciting games. Pretty much all of them are very interesting. Snake versus OMG is one that will be super hype. Not knowing how well OMG will be or not is going to be a big question that we have for them. Rogue Warriors Jingdong, however, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Just like today, it could be a big surprise, but I have a feeling that that set will deliver.
Doinby versus his former team. Of course, the English broadcast will be covering Suning versus RNG, the second set, because it will be held here in the arena. Tragically, there is only one broadcast, one group of us, so we're unable to cover both at the same time. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to miss any of that action. Of course, we'll be talking about it throughout the games as well, and you can find the VODs online as well. But Rusty, Doinby versus his former team.
Yeah.
Jingdong are actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
who's going to take that?
I mean, it's always a funny thing to try and dissect Jingdong without Doinby, because that team was just Doinby, and he's moved on since, yet they look good without him.
Yeah.
So it's a very unusual place that we've found ourselves in when you really look at what that team has become. But so far, man, they have been surprising. It's almost like Clit has found his new Doinby.
Well, you say that about Doinby. Doinby has found his new
Exactly,
Swift, and
yeah.
then suddenly it's the other way around.
Two-way street, Dom.
It really is. It really is. Again, Yagao is stepping up against a very difficult opponent in the mid lane, so he'll have to keep pace. And in that second matchup, then Suning versus RNG. Suning have also been making paces, climbing towards the middle of the pack. And again, we've been having this discussion about the race for the third and fourth place team, those final playoff spots. Of course, it's far too early to lock them in, but Suning, they've got our attention.
Let's not lock something in as well when we mention RNG. Their opponents in that game who are currently in 5th by the standings.
Yep.
That's a bit of a disaster for them, honestly. Actually, they're 6th right now by those standings.
Yeah.
Anyway, RNG very low in the bracket. You have a lot more expectations for them. Up against Suning, one of the easier games of their group. Suning still have a lot of fight. They are a very strong team, and they've shown they have the capabilities to keep up with anybody. Their last set against Invictus Gaming was actually surprisingly close, even though it was a 2-0. So it's not an easy feat for RNG to win that set as well.
And the fact that we do still need to see RNG grow as a team. MLXG and Karsa, of course, Abel coming in as the AD carry. And while we are still seeing exceptional individual plays, it almost seems like a bit of a case of Vici Gaming, where you and I were talking about, hey, we're seeing good stuff out of the individual players from Vici, but they just can't quite pull it together. RNG is not quite to the same degree, and we do expect their individual ceiling to be a little bit higher, but they seem to be making similar mistakes.
There is something desperately needed in that team. And
yeah.
It really makes you wonder, because everyone will look at like RNG, right, and they're like, well, Uzi's missing. Uzi comes back. They're just going to win. They're going to make the semifinals of Worlds again. No problems. They're the best team we've ever seen to touch God's Earth. But that's not the case this year, where last year Xiaohu stepped up and MLXG stepped up and RNG looked like a good team. This year there is a lot more going wrong than just the AD carry role, and it really makes you wonder, does it actually mean that much when Uzi comes back, when he comes back, or RNG still going to struggle with Uzi back in the roster? And right now, I just think RNG fans are hoping and praying that he is the difference.
Well, hey, I mean, we were talking a little bit about Xiaohu in that mid lane. It seems like he's still got that fire that he carried back from Worlds, kind of like an Olympic torch almost. And he is just burning through mid laners all across the LPL.
Yeah, well, it's no KT. He doesn't hold the actual Olympic torch, but Xiaohu had a bigger fire last year, and it feels like that's something that is sorely missing in comparison to that time this year.
Yeah, well, hopefully he'll be able to actually close out and continue strong. Of course, we can take a look at our standings right now and catch you up with where everyone actually is. Because, again, RNG, they are 2 and 3, tied for 5th place. If we were doing this alphabetically, they would actually be in 6th place, but not quite.
And we mentioned it, you know, 5 is playing 5 tomorrow, as the standings imply, but it's worth a little bit more than that for both of these teams. The first of 2 times, I should say, that they play against each other just before cross-conference is where the implications grow for them. You want to get the head-to-head for the first time you play your group, and as they go to cross-conference, which is next week, upsets are once-offs. So you only get one chance. You can surprise people. You could end up really high in the standings. Then you come back to your own group a second time. And that's why this first round and first weeks are actually surprisingly important.
Yeah, and TOP, of course, you can see at 0 and 6 at the bottom of the standings. Rusty, I just got a fantasy baseball here. 0 and 6. Let's wildly guess that Vici end up going 0 and 6 as well. One of these teams has to walk away with a win in cross-conference.
Who wins first?
I gotta ask. Because I'm curious.
Yeah, I know. Please, ask the question, Dom.
Fine. I formally propose this question to you in form of writing. TOP?
This is going to take a long time to write.
Vici? What's it going to be?
Vici.
Vici. You really think the loss streak for TOP is going to go on that long?
You know what? There's Clement has been saying this when TOP go to the cross group, they're known as the killers of everybody in the group, so maybe they get the victory. I saw improvement from Vici today. It's the closest thing in my mind to both of these teams, so I just went with Vici. Nailed it.
Putting you on the spot there. Well, thank you very much for playing ball with me and formally answering a very difficult question. But again, that match isn't going to be happening likely until after the Lunar New Year because again, we've got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for those games, and then we're taking a break for a few weeks here as everyone in China is celebrating. But now I think we on the analyst desk get to take a break because we are going to hear from Candice and Haro about their thoughts in the game that we just played.
Hello, welcome to our interview. I'm Candice. 好了，欢迎来到我们的赛后采访。我是于双。我们现在邀请到的是 Haro 来接受我们采访。Here we are joined by Haro. Could you say hello to your audience?
嗨，大家好，我是 EDG 的打野 Haro。
好了，那首先第一个问题，因为我们知道你是 EDG 的一个算是新人了，那会不会觉得压力很大呢 ？We know that you are a starting member of EDG, so do you feel the pressures?
首先 EDG 是一个老牌队伍，然后在里面肯定压力特别的大。
I think I feel a lot of pressure because EDG is like a very long history, like gaming club, so I feel a lot of pressure. 所以接下来这个问题很想知道，因为既然你有很多的压力，我也知道你在最近的表现也有很多的进步，那你觉得现在队里对你帮助最大的队友是谁呢？The following question is, I know that you feel a lot of pressure, so you have a hard time in the very beginning. So who do you think is the most one, like help you most of your teammate?
目前就是对我帮助最大的应该是李瑞灿，就是 Scout。因为平时他会找我2个人聊天，无论是游戏内游戏外，他都对我就是教过我很多。
I think the teammates help me most is Scott, because he will talk to me a lot, and we will like have a long conversation, whether it's about game or not about a game. 好，接下来下一个问题，因为今天看到你3场是选择了盲僧，而且我觉得有很多很亮眼的表现，那你今天对自己的表现还满意吗？Third question, in today's series, we can see like you display multiple great plays of the Lee Sin. So how do you feel of your performance today?
今天盲僧的话，可能打的就比前几场比赛表现的会稍微好一点。
I think I perform better than like the games before. 最后一个问题，因为接下来一场比赛你们要对上的是 WE 了，有没有信心能够赢过他们？
信心肯定有的，就希望能给大家带来一场精彩的比赛吧。
I asked him is that the next matchup is against WE, so are you confident? And the answer is, I think I definitely have the confidence to like take the victory, and they're really strong. And thank you very much for your like interview. Back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candice and Haro. And, ooh, some bold words from Haro. Looks like he thinks that they can close out their match against WE. Well, Haro, you just dropped game 1 against Vici Gaming.
Yes,
Bold statement.
Yes, look, it is a bold statement, but Haro did play exceptionally well in the rest of the series. They found themselves, and the confidence is always a necessary thing when you're playing against a good team. So I respect and I appreciate that, if nothing else, he was confident for his upcoming set against Team WE.
We'll just have to hope that it does not turn into overconfidence. Of course, they still have a few days to prepare, as that matchup will be happening later this week as we get closer and closer to cross-conference play. But Rusty, we've done it. We've closed out another Friday here on the LPL. Any final thoughts on the games?
Look, I'm surprised by Vici, but
Yeah.
in the end, everything happened as you would expect.
Yeah, well, there you go. EDG closed it out. Rusty saying all as planned, but with a couple of speed bumps along the way. I think I'm inclined to agree as well. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. It's been week 3, day number 4. We've got day 5 coming at you in just a few hours, like 12 or 16, I believe it is. Be sure to come back for tomorrow's games. We'll see you then.